Hello, my name is Dr. Marissa. They call me the Asian Oprah. I am a broadcast journalist with a weekly talk radio show out of Hollywood called Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And it's a show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K words, no Kardashian talk at all. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So my topics and my guests deal with that. I have everyone from Fran Drescher, who came on to talk about how to reduce your risk of breast cancer or any kind of cancer, to Marianne Williamson, to Don Miguel Ruiz, who's the best-selling author of The Four Agreements, to Marianne from Gilligan's Island. So all of my shows are there to inspire, to motivate, to make you feel good about life and good about yourself. I have been a corporate psychologist, actually, for many, many years. I got my PhD in organizational psychology, so I do work with companies on human dynamics at work. So more joy, less stress at work. And when I was teaching at UCLA, I was approached by a student who knew a director who wanted me to do some TV commentary. So apparently the camera loves me, and so I got to do a number of specials on ABC, Fox, Discovery Channel. And so I loved doing, talking head, little sound bites here and there. Radio was never in my even thought. But I've been hearing voices. I started hearing voices like 8 or 9 years ago. And a voice would say, love. Or a voice would say, right. Or a voice would say, talk to that person. And I've realized I call this voice my UPS man, my universal power source. I'm not religious, but I am spiritual. And I believe that everyone's connected to something that is much bigger than themselves, that's responsible for the beauty and the love and the joy and the hope in the world. So this voice woke me up at 4:30 one morning 5 years ago and said, radio. And I said, radio? And the voice said, radio. So then I said, can we talk about this later? It's 4:30 in the morning, I'm tired. And the voice said, radio. So I went and I sat at the computer and I wrote for 44 minutes and I came up with the title of the show, the format of the show, the guests, and I've had everyone except the Dalai Lama now, and what the show was about. And so that's how it came about 5 years ago. Last year, I won the 2016 Podcast of the Year Top 10 Award out of 440,000 shows and 100 million downloads. So obviously, hope and happiness is trending. And my show balances out all of the CNN, the constantly negative news that's out there right now. So I'm grateful that I have this platform. You can see I'm very shy and I don't like to talk. So sarcasm is another service I offer. But I'm very, very grateful that I get to speak and splatter hope and happiness on the airwaves. It's time for women to feel good about themselves. It's time for women to not be ashamed of speaking out loud. I grew up in a traditional Chinese home where speaking out was shameful. Looking in people's eyes was shameful. Blowing your own horn or saying what you're good at was shameful. And I think for many Asian cultures, that is the norm. That is the cultural norm. And I think that we're changing everything, and that's the good news. The bad news is we're changing everything. But it's a beautiful thing to watch young women embrace the unique talent, gift, and abilities that they have. As women, we have the ability to speak and love and nurture and support and also be strength in a way that we've never been before. We don't have to be like men. We don't have to walk or talk like men do. We have each within our hearts, our minds, and our souls an ability to touch hearts that it's time for us to do that. It's time for us to stop playing small. We do have to be patient. I think it's all of our jobs to plant seeds, and we plant seeds everywhere, and we don't. When the sprout starts to grow, the worst thing we can do is pull it up and say, "Are you growing?" That will hurt everything. So we just plant seeds. We do what we can. I do believe, though, that women have to. At the end of every show, I say it's all about balance, peace in, and peace out. So if we are to come into our own, we have to be at peace with ourselves. We have to feel like we are okay. And many women don't feel they're okay. I actually do, the last week of the month, I do sexual healing with Dr. Marissa, based on the statistic that 85% of women don't feel, they fake their pleasure because they don't feel like they can ask for pleasure, that it's okay. They don't feel good about their bodies. Women are so, they think they're less attractive, less intelligent, and less beautiful than they actually are. Men, on the other hand, seem to have missed that very self-critical gene and think they're better looking, more buff, and have more hair than they actually do. So I tell women all the time, have a guy day. Pretend you're a guy. Feel good about you and the way you look and the way you feel, and see yourselves as the beautiful, unique, and precious child of the universe that you are. I teach balanced Tai Chi Gong, which is a moving meditation that promotes inner peace one breath at a time. And one of the forms that's most powerful is called the butterfly. And in that movement, we reclaim the truth of the beauty that we are. 7.3 billion of us on the planet, men and women. We have unique gifts, talents, and abilities to share. We are beautiful inside and out. And as soon as we recognize that we're loving, lovable, and loved, and wrapped in a warm blanket of worthiness, then we can have that peace, that comfort, feeling good about ourselves, being comfortable in our own skin. We also have to forgive. I think, yes, there have been so many things done wrong to women, especially in Asian countries, and there's a healing there. There's an energy to fight against things that are wrong, and there's an energy to stand for things that are right. And there's a huge difference, because you cannot get to peace with war. So if you're fighting for women's rights, we've lost the fight already. If we are claiming and honoring the feminine, then we're winning. So in the changing from fighting against to claiming what is, requires us to forgive. We cannot be a force if we refuse to forgive those who have hurt us. We have to get to the place where we realize that forgiveness is our gift to ourselves, so we don't suffer from what has been done to us so long ago. And that message and that choice, that power that we have to forgive for ourselves, is a message that I get to bring, and I'm very well prepared to do this. I grew up in an abusive home. I was beaten to the point of being in a hospital. The person who beat me was put away in a hospital, a mental health hospital, for a little while for the beating, because it was that bad. I then, had a relationship where I had to pay $500,000 and lost a big company because that was part of the divorce process. So I know what it feels like to have justified anger. I know what it feels like to hurt and to be so resentful and angry that I cannot find peace. And I'm here to say that the only way that I can feel happy is if I forgive, not for them, not to condone what they've done, but for me, that I can separate myself from the ruinating, marinating, hatred, seething, resentment that is in unforgiveness. The choice to forgive is the most beautiful, powerful weapon of love that each one of us has. And when women can get to that place where we choose to forgive, choose to love from that forgiveness, then we are wrapped and immersed and splattered and infused with the love that we are. And that love is the power that we will heal the hearts that are broken and suffering in the world today. I grew up in a culture where girls are not as good as boys. It's interesting, when I went into therapy, I brought my brother when we were a little older, and the therapist asked him, "Were you beaten and told you were fat and ugly and clumsy like your sister was?" And he said, "No, it was just my sister." And I knew, growing up in a Chinese family, that I had to be better in order to be seen and heard and recognized. My brother had it easy. Do I have some forgiveness work still? No, I love my brother dearly. But to actually want to be a man, no, I didn't really want to be a boy. I wanted to die as a child. I didn't want to be anything from the pain of the abuse. So that was, just to be able to release myself from the feeling of that. Now I'm so grateful that I am grateful for everything that happened to me as a child, as a girl. I'm grateful that for everything that happened in the divorce process. I'm grateful for all the money that I had to give, because I am a direct result of every single thing that has shaped me in this lifetime. And I am not sorry, and I am not, I wouldn't do it any other way. I would not change one thing. And I have a man, one of my teachers, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, to thank for that. He's one of the teachers from The Secret. I don't know if you remember that film. And I remember I took a class, Universal Principles in Spirituality, and he said, if nothing changed in your past, if nothing changed, could you find anything that helped you develop into who you are now that you like? And it stopped me in my tracks. And I had been so in such pain around the abuse, in such pain that I had pushed down for so long, about the divorce and the affairs and everything that breaks your heart open. And when he said that, it was like a light just came and shocked me in the soul. And all of a sudden I understood why I'm here. I understood everything that had happened to me. That it was like, oh yes, from the abuse, I learned that I am strong, resilient, resourceful. Same lessons from the very expensive divorce. Same lesson from growing two beautiful daughters as a single mom. That everything that happens to me is for my divine and best good. That the beauty of the choice of knowing that. Einstein says the most important question that a human being has to answer is the universe friendly or not? If we say that the universe is not friendly, It's going to be a long haul. Life will suck. You're always going to be afraid, who's going to break my heart? Who's going to take from me? Who's going to hurt me? When is that other shoe going to drop? But if you choose instead to believe that the universe is friendly, and I do, and that is my message, and that is what I bring to everywhere I go, peace work around the world, children that I get to work. I just spoke with hundreds of children at an NGO. I took a day off the conference to go and do that because this is part of my work. To meet with them and to look them in the eye and say it is a friendly universe. And what you're experiencing here, if it doesn't feel good, it's okay. Because everything happens for your divine and best good. And you are loved and lovable. And you are wrapped in a warm blanket of worthiness. Because all of us are here. We're all spiritual beings having a human experience. And I believe that, I know that, I choose that. Is there proof? Probably not. As a scientist, there's not, although quantum physics and chaos theory is definitely, supporting, medical studies are supporting that if you vibrate high, you have good health. If you vibrate low, you don't have good health. So there's more and more data. But even if there's no data, it's as simple as this. If you're angry, do you feel good? If you're in resentment, does it feel good? When you are creative, does it feel good? When you feel loved, loving, and lovable, does it feel good? Absolutely. So I believe, this is my theory, you don't have to believe it, but I believe that where we are eternal, and we are, everything is great. Everything's beautiful. There's really nothing wrong. However, we cannot taste over there. We cannot feel. We cannot touch. We cannot, feel the joy from dancing. We cannot feel the resonance from singing. We cannot feel the collaboration. That only happens when you're human. So I believe that as spiritual beings, we line up and we say, I want to come down. I want to feel these things. And I'm not a big Shirley MacLaine necessarily, but I've had people say, I've known you from another lifetime, so I've probably come down before. We can come down and choose what we want to experience. So I know I came down to feel power. And what better way to feel power and develop that power than to choose to be born in a powerless home? Yes, to choose to be in a powerless relationship. I have developed power. So I am just so grateful. What was the theme? Oh, standing in line, coming onto the planet as spiritual beings having a human experience and feeling what it is like to taste really good food. Feeling what it is like to have a child hug you. Feeling what it is like to run with a dog along the beach in the sand. All of these are gifts of life. All of these are things that on the other side, where it's beautiful all the time, there's no contrast. So we come to Earth to feel the contrast. And that's why I actually say, I'm here because I want people to be happy 88% of the time. Now, 88 is actually on purpose because 8 is a lucky number in Mandarin, in Chinese. 8 is a homonym for good fortune. Ba, fa. And so I don't want you to be happy 100% of the time, because then there's no contrast. When we go in transition to another place, we will be happy 100% of the time. So we need the contrast to know how we feel. So the 12% is for the logical time that we're sad, or we're angry, or we're perplexed, or we're irritated, or we're confused. The trick is if they're lower vibrating feelings that don't make us feel good, we stay there only for 12% of the time. And then we choose better feeling thoughts. That's from Esther and Jerry Hicks' Law of Attraction. And I'm very good at that now. And all the good things that happen to me are because I'm disciplined, or as Michael Bernard Beckwith says, I'm blissiplined to feel the contrast. And then I designed a 21-day fast from complaining app. And I have that exercise online so that you complain, you vent, and then you're done. And once you release the anger, you're not allowed to come back and address it again. And that's the way you stay in that high vibration. You stay in a place that you feel good about yourself, about others, and about life. We both were hurt, damaged adults. He came from a family where there was some abuse. I came from a family that there was some abuse. So when you feel badly, that was normal. So we both felt badly. We both really wanted children, but there was not a lot of love. And I was codependent, which means I'm not happy unless you're happy. So I took on a project to try to make him happy. And it was interesting. I had a therapist ask me, so when did you realize he was emotionally unavailable? And because I was like, mad, he's emotionally unavailable. And she asked me, so when did you realize that? Before or after you got married? I said, oh, way before. And then she said, well, then who's really emotionally unavailable? And that was, she busted me because I knew he was, and yet I still wanted the relationship. And so then 6 times I tried to leave. 6 times I tried to beg, do you really love me? Do you really want to be married? And he never said yes, but he never said no. So, the codependency is when you just, I call it, you go to the tractor for milk. You go and try to find love from people who are incapable of love. And I did that in my home as well. And, I just tried to make people happy who cannot be happy. And that anxiety is a habit. And so you attract people. So I grew up with that feeling. And so I attracted and chose a man who gave me that exact feeling. And I'm really grateful that he had an affair, because if he had not had that affair, I would still be in that relationship. It gave me the strength to leave and then to heal and then to forgive. And, I have a lot of compassion for him. He's still out there. He actually spent the $465,000 and is now homeless. And it's sad. And I don't know if I necessarily want this on the broadcast, though, because my children are very sensitive around this. So this is off the record. But it's his path. He's learning his path, and my children are learning their path with a very strong mother, and I just I'm just so grateful for everything that has been, exactly as it has been. And I'm grateful that I can say that and I can feel that in my heart. And I wish that for everyone. I wish that every person, every person, no matter what they're going through, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how they feel about themselves, I want them to know and believe. And if they don't believe that they're worthy, if they don't believe that they're good enough, please believe that I believe until you can believe. I will love you until you can love yourself. I promise.